Hi everybody, it's the Soul Tripping channel and I'm back. It's been quite a hiatus and I've been busy listening to a lot of music in the intervening months, but I've also been testing out some new gear. So this video is going to be a comparison video and I'm going to talk about the new Marantz stereo amp that I bought, the Model 50 amp, and I'm going to be comparing it to the Marantz Model 1040 vintage 1970s amp. And I want to get into why I decided to do this quote upgrade and to determine whether it really was an upgrade. So let's get right into it. We're going to start here with the Model 1040. This has been a go-to mainstay stereo amp in my setup since I would say around 1999, year 2000, something like that. My wife found this amp at a yard sale and got it for very cheap. I don't think she paid any more than $30 for it. It might have even been more like 20. Anyway, it has served us super well. This has that warm, kind of smooth, silky, solid state 1970s vintage Marantz sound that a lot of people love. It's a great solid state amp. I can't compare it to tube amps, but it certainly has always sounded fine. In terms of the specs, I believe it's a 40-watt amp, but for the small room that I use it in, it has worked just fine and has really delivered the goods. Now, why did I want to change this amp? Well, it's getting a bit long in the tooth, and it's been getting temperamental. So there were some unpredictable connection issues with it. Sometimes it just would sound a little garbled or distorted, or I would be getting distortion or a sort of signal noise in one of the channels. And sometimes the selector switch, moving from, let's say, phono to the aux stage for my CD or into one of the other selections for my DAC, things would get a little wonky and I would run into these problems with noise or static or a little bit of signal loss, garbling, that kind of thing. And then sometimes I would be able to fix that. It's I would spray it with some deoxit or do some cleaning, vacuuming, just try to get the dust out of it, compressed air, that kind of thing. So the amp still works and I can get it back into shape, but these connection issues were happening with a little bit more frequency and it was starting to get annoying. And I thought, well, I don't want to get rid of this amp. I know one day I should take it to a service company and get it properly cleaned up, possibly recapped. I don't know what, but it needs some tender loving care. But it still works. Wasn't planning to get rid of it, but I thought, let me try one of the newer Marantz amps and see what I can do. So about 6 months ago, I found a very, very good open box deal on the Model 50 amp. And these have a very sleek new design. I really like the silver finish of it. They look great. They've gotten some pretty good reviews. This open box deal I got was hundreds of dollars off. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to splurge on this. Life is short. I'm going to treat myself, treat the family to this new amp. I had something like a 30-day return policy, so I felt like I had nothing to lose. I'm going to demo it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to break it in and see how it compares. And that's what I want to talk about with you today, is how does this newer amp compare to the older one. Now, I'm not going to give you the hard specs on the Model 50. You can find plenty of YouTube videos that do a much better job of reviewing the X's and O's than I can. There's also like plenty of stuff in print online that you can, research to your heart's content. But here's my broad takeaways for the Model 50 and where it sits in the Marantz lineup currently. This is basically an all analog type of amp, so it doesn't include any extras like a built-in DAC or anything like that. You have to get the accompanying CD player, which is also a network player that goes along, that pairs really nicely with this. I did not purchase that. I thought about it, but because that CD player does not support SACDs, I wasn't sure I was ready for it. I'm not ruling it out. I might indeed get that if I can get a good open box special or a clearance model or something like that. But anyway, the Model 50 amplifier, just a stereo amp, is relatively simple. It has you can run lots of inputs into it. It accommodates everything that I use it for, which would be a built-in phono stage for the turntable, the Fluence turntable with the Ortofon Blue stylus. And it also can handle CDs, dedicated input for that, and then there's dedicated aux inputs, so I can feed my two different DACs that I use with it. One is a Wi-Fi streaming, like the Chrome Audio, those little hockey puck things, and then also the iFi Zen DAC goes into it. So it fits my needs perfectly. There's also like a power amp input and so forth, but nothing's really digital in it. It's all basically analog with like the analog outs and the inputs and outs and all that. So anyway, that was the Model 50, and it compares a lot to what I have on the old Marantz Model 1040. The newer amp is higher wattage. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's like a 70 watt amp or 100 watt, or depends on how many ohms you're going into, but it's plenty powerful. So it's got a little more juice to it than the Marantz, but that was never an issue for me with the Marantz 1040. Like it always was loud enough for me. And what I did was, before I dismantled the Marantz 1040, I did a listening test. So shortly I'm going to give you some samples from our band Breakthrough Shine. And this was, I tried to do it as close as possible, like on the living room stereo. I didn't match the volumes like scientifically, but I just by ear tried to get it at the same volume. And I used like a Tascam portable recorder, like with microphones, just to like record what was coming out of the ELAC debut bookshelf speakers on that system. And I compared, and I'd also streamed it from like the Wi-Fi streaming over the Chrome Audio because like that music was streamable, and so you're getting the same source, and you're listening to it, as comparably as I could make it, and it's a very similar snippet, and these are like 40 to 50 second snippets. So we'll compare it shortly. But anyway, here's what happened with that. So I did that. I did the Marantz, then I disconnected the Marantz. I recorded the little snippet for the Model 50, the new one. And then I moved the Marantz 1040 to my second floor stereo system, where it's now paired with my Pioneer bookshelf speakers, which I still like. Those SPBS22, they really punch above their weight class. And the Marantz sounds really good with those. And the new Marantz sounds really good with the ELAC debut speakers, like as well as the old amp. Like everything sounds good through those ELACs. So let's do the listening test now, and then we'll make some comparisons, and I'll talk about some major differences in sort of how these amps handle volume and so forth. So I'm going to do this in a sort of blind fashion. So we'll do sample A and sample B, and then on the flip side, I'll talk about which was which. All right, here is sample A.
It's an all out. It's an all out. I'm tired and blind.
And now let's listen to sample B. Which did you prefer? Sample A, sample B? Could you hear a difference? Here's my reveal. Sample A was the old 1970s Model 1040. Sample B was the new Marantz Model 50. Do you have a preference? Can you hear any differences? I would love to hear you weigh in the comments section on that. Anyway, let me, without like doing any kind of rough evaluations of the sound samples right now, let me talk about some first impressions I got of the Model 50 once I hooked it up. The first thing was the volume, how it handles the volume was very strange to me at first. So basically 0 on this amp is like the loudest possible you can get. And I found that like dialing up to usually around at least -40, I had to get it all the way up to that to be able to like really feel like the amp was sounding loud enough for me. And when I'm playing digital sources, especially CDs, I often have to make it closer to like -30 to get to a very sort of comfortable, loud enough level. And those ELAC debut speakers, they tend to be thirsty. They like power. They like the juice. And I found like I really had to kind of, at least my perception was, I have to crank this amp to like get that kind of output out of it. Now the phono stage seemed a lot louder just by default. But so anyway, I just want to mention that as like it was a bit off-putting at first. There's nothing wrong with the amp. It's just I had to get used to that. The other thing is this amp does not have a loudness button, whereas the Marantz Model 1040 has a loudness button. Now, what do loudness buttons do? Well, you all can tell me better than I can, but my perception is it gooses up the bass and the treble at lower volumes to make the sound fuller when you're listening at these low volumes. So the big difference I noticed between these two amplifiers was how much less volume I needed to apply on the older amp to get like a nice loud signal coming through. Whereas the new one, the Model 50, I really had to I felt like I had to crank it to get to a nice volume. And I sort of initially missed that loudness button. So that loudness button really like kind of compensates for that. And it has a real sweet sound to it. Like it's part of the signature sound of that amp. And so yeah, like the first impression was like I was a little bit wary. Like I'm starting to miss that. But where the new amp really started to shine was when I played vinyl albums through it. So I really, really like the phono stage of this amp. That sounded really full, like the album, it pairs nicely with the Fluence turntable. And I just felt like, oh, wow, this sounds great. Like that was when I started to feel like this amp may be better than the old one. Because I think the phono stage I prefer to it. As far as digital sources, it's a little more complicated. So I have the new amp paired with an Oppo CD player, which also plays SACDs and even plays DVDs, although I don't use it for that. But that CD player was an upgrade over the old Sony player that I used to have, and it was immediate. Like it's just with the DAC inside of that, everything just sounded better. But what I noticed with the Model 50, the CDs sounded a little underwhelming at first. This is entirely subjective. And I wasn't sure why. Part of it was maybe that volume issue and I wasn't playing it loud enough. The louder I turned it up, the better it got. But I also have some theories on why things are sounding that way. Now, I have gotten used to it, and I feel like the CDs have gotten very satisfying listening to them on the Model 50. But if you pushed me, I would probably say that I currently prefer listening to CDs on the old Marantz 1040. I don't know why. Now, for DAC inputs, the discrepancy wasn't as much. So I think actually the DAC sounds really good on the new amp. CDs just seem a little bit underwhelming for some reason. Now, it makes me wonder if I should try pairing it with this newer Marantz, the 50N CD network player. That would be very tempting to try. After breaking in the amp over a couple months, a lot of this stuff resolved. And now I'm ready to give you some impressions on what I think the strengths of this amp are, the new one. I think the Model 50 excels in its like simplicity of design. It's very clean, like the externals are very clean, but actually the internals too. And what you're getting sound-wise from it, you are getting a very, this is subjective, but you're getting a very transparent sound. It's clean, it's balanced, it is transparent, clear. It's not harsh. Although I will say we use the EQ knobs. Like I felt the need, again, I'm sort of missing that loudness button. So I do notch up the bass, typically the bass EQ. And sometimes I might notch up the treble to like 1, but it's more of like a bass issue. But nothing sounds harsh or brittle or thin at all. But you can tailor it. You can also like hit a direct source button on the amp if you just don't want to worry about the EQ knobs. But it's very satisfying. It's great. And I think what I'm hearing when it comes back to that CD issue is this amp, the Model 50, and this is the most expensive stereo amp I've ever bought. So I might be in a little bit of a different league than I was before. But because of its transparency, I feel like it's revealing the source a lot more accurately than maybe the Model 1040 is. The Model 1040 is sort of compensating for some of the deficiencies. So like a badly produced or mixed or mastered CD might sound a little better on the older amp because of what it's doing with the sound signature, whereas this newer amp is so transparent that it's revealing the problems with the source. So you get, like, what I found to be true is like a really well-produced CD sounds great on the Model 50, but some kind of schlocky, not so good CD that wasn't really mastered very well, or, you know, it's got certain deficiencies in its mix, that's not going to sound, it's going to sound a little disappointing. Now, on the other hand, vinyl on the Model 50, like, well, it's actually the same thing. Like a poorly, you know, you listen to some like K-Tel compilation, which is some garbage pressing, it's going to sound okay on the Model 50, but it's going to not sound great. I still think it probably sounds better than the 1040, but like a decently, and I played lots of new vinyl that I bought last year, things like, you know, reissues of like Pink Floyd and Jackson Browne and Blue Note jazz albums and stuff. These vinyl records sound incredible on the Model 50. Like that felt like a significant upgrade over what I was getting on the Marantz 1040. Even though I never had any major complaints about the 1040, the phono stage sounds fine, but it's like you don't know what you're missing. And for some reason, like this more revealing, transparent amp, stereo amp, and stereo only, by the way, no 5.1, no none of that jazz. Because it's more revealing, it's actually sort of revealing the strength of the source or the weakness of the source on vinyl or digital. So that's basically my early impressions of the Model 50. To conclude, I'm really happy with it. It sounds great. It looks great. I just feel like it was time to buy a new amp. This will be an amp I can live with probably for the rest of my life and be totally content with. The DAC sounds great through it. The Hi-Fi, especially the Hi-Fi Zen DAC, sounds really great. And vinyl sounds great. CDs, I'm thinking like, I like it, but I feel like I could do better. So I'm probably going to try to upgrade my CD player at some point just to see. Again, you don't know what you're missing if you don't expose yourself to it. So that can be a trap, can it? But anyway, still love the old Marantz Model 1040. It's actually playing a nice role here in the second floor stereo system paired with the Pioneer bookshelf speakers. I've been listening, and I have this an old Sony 5-disc tray CD player paired with that. But I've had things sound really great with that old Marantz, and I haven't since I switched it to this room. I haven't really had the connection problems. One reason is I'm not really playing vinyl through it, so I'm not like switching the selector knob as much or as often. But it seems to be happy in its new home, new room in the house, and the new Marantz Model 50 sounds pretty nice too. So that is a little bit of a rambling review. I'm curious to hear if you hear any differences between the two sound samples. Which do I prefer? I go back and forth. The last time I just listened to it when I was prepping the audio files for this video, I think maybe the new Marantz amp sounds a little fuller to me. I really like its clean, transparent, balanced approach to things. It's nothing fancy. It's no nonsense, but it really delivers like a sweet sound. If you have a Model 50, what are your impressions of it? And I'm really curious if anyone has paired it with the, I think it's the 50N, the CD player and network streamer. If you've paired those two pieces of gear, let me know if that was worthwhile, if it's worth it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be back soon, I hope, with some more song-themed videos. Take care.